welcome back to another video, or if you're new here, welcome to my channel. My name is Miranda Burns and I have a condition called endometriosis. Now, it is currently Endometriosis Awareness Month, so I promised myself that every week of this month I would upload a video specifically to do with endo, whether it be something that offers like support or solidarity, or maybe like some kind of tips and tricks that I've learned along the way. Today's video is hopefully going to equip you with like information on how to combat the stresses of going to doctor's appointments, because I know that they are not easy. Think of it as kind of like things that I have learned the hard way over the years of going back and forth to GPs, gynecologists, urologists, you name it, probably gone to see it. Just advice that I have got from having gone through it myself. Advice that I now want to share with you. I appreciate it's a really sensitive topic, and I'm not going to be mentioning any names of any doctors, and I'm not going to be like criticizing anyone specifically. And I know that going to doctor's appointments when you have a chronic illness can be the most disheartening experience that feels like a setback every single time that you go to one. Because unfortunately, some doctors can be dismissive, they can patronize you, they can sound unsympathetic and make you feel like you are wasting their time. You are never wasting that time, okay? Your feelings are valid and your symptoms are real. And I always say that you know your body better than anybody. So if you think that something's wrong, persist, persevere, something probably is wrong and you need to get it checked out. Finding the correct doctor, however, is a little bit difficult. And also being taken seriously by that doctor when you finally find them, also difficult. It's basically a minefield of obstacles that you have to overcome, which is not fair because you're already overcoming the biggest obstacle ever, endometriosis. Not ideal. But yeah, these are just my little tips and tricks that I have learned along the way, which I'm really hoping can help you too. So, tip number one, bring somebody that you love or you trust along with you to your appointments. Now, at the time of filming this, we're currently in a little thing called a pandemic, and COVID is wreaking havoc around the world. So I know that a lot of the time, doctors don't want you bringing a +1 to your appointment. When that changes, however, please, please, please take somebody with you. I used to take my mum with me to every single appointment, and she was an absolute queen. And she, I love her and I trust her, and I know that she has my best interests at heart. And I kind of, what I think it's like strength in numbers, isn't it? Because I would go to these appointments and I would relay all these symptoms to a doctor, and they would sort of look at me blankly and say things like, oh, have you tried to not think about it? And then my mum would come in, the powerhouse of a woman that she is, and would say, these symptoms are real. I have seen them with my very own eyes, and just advocate for me and give me the validation that I needed. And often those two voices against that one doctor mean that the doctor will take you a little bit more seriously. Also, these appointments are stressful. I would lose sleep in the run-up to going to an appointment because I would just think, oh my gosh, I am going to have to tell my story yet again, a really upsetting story that is still so close to my heart because I'm living through it right now, something that makes me miserable, it makes me not want to get out of bed in the morning. I'm gonna have to tell this story to a doctor who most likely is gonna look down their nose at me, and behind their eyes, I can see that they're thinking she's a hypochondriac when I know that I'm not. So taking someone with you who can just literally sit in the waiting room alongside, hold your hand, give it a little squeeze, in the car on the way there, keep you talking about other things, or help you plan what you're gonna say in the appointment. It's just such a comfort and just such an important support base to have. That is my number one tip. Please take somebody with you. They'll also be pretty darn beneficial because if you're anything like me, you probably cry in your appointments. And I know that that sounds counterproductive, but it's inevitable. When you're feeling miserable because of something that you're suffering with, that is rooted to your emotions, and often you can't control the upset that comes with describing your symptoms to a doctor. So what I would find is I would go into an appointment and I would forget what I had planned to say, and often I would leave an appointment and I would forget what the doctor had said. That's where my mum came handy. She would make mental notes of things that we wanted to bring up so that if I got flustered or overwhelmed, she could, remember. And then when we left the appointment and we were sat in the car, we would always have a little debrief for the whole journey home, where she'd be like, oh, and they said this and they said that and they mentioned X, Y, Z. And often I hadn't even noticed that they'd said that. So it was so useful that she was there. Quite possibly would have ended up doing the wrong thing had it not been for Celia Burns. Absolute legend. Everyone needs a Celia Burns, or an equivalent, because we can't have a Celia Burns in every single appointment because there ain't enough hours in the day. Okay, tip number 2. change your GP if you need to. Now, you might be blessed and have a really lovely and supportive and understanding GP. I, however, when I started out on this journey, did not. I had a horrible GP who was dismissive and short and cold and clinical and patronising, and made me feel like I was this big. And because she was pretty much the only GP I'd ever gone to about these problems, I just thought that's how GPs were. I have since moved and learned that not all GPs are like her, and there are actually some really wonderful ones. So if you currently have a GP who refuses to refer you, tells you not to think about the pain, says things like, yeah, well, those symptoms, they just happen sometimes, makes you feel unimportant and unheard, sighs when you walk into their surgery, like that is such a warning sign. My GP, literally, I could, like, her body language would change. She'd be like, when I walked through the door and her eyes would roll. We were already off to a bad start. She was not the right woman for me. So shop around. I know that is a weird term to describe finding a GP, but shop around. Find somebody who wants to give you time. Find somebody with like the ability to think laterally, you know, put a strategy in place, not be scared of sending you off for blood tests or getting a second opinion. Please, for the love of all that is good, find yourself a great GP. Because at the end of the day, what's the phrase? The buck stops with them? The buck stops with them? Oh, I was right, yeah. The buck stops with them. They're the person, at least in the UK, who are gonna give you your referral. So you just need to have someone that's good at their job. I also want to point out that the receptionists at my old GP surgery were also quite horrible. I dread calling them. My sister had the exact same situation. You kind of felt like they thought you were lying, like you had to prove why you deserved a doctor's appointment. But I really appreciate that appointments were like few and far between. But you'd call up your doctor's surgery and you'd be like, hi, I need an appointment. And again, there'd be like this almost audible sigh on the other end of the phone. And I'm just over here like, I don't want to be ill. I don't trust me. I would much rather be doing something else with my day rather than calling you. I'm calling you out of desperation. I'm not here to waste your time. But that is how the receptionists make me feel and made my sister feel, that we were wasting their time. So believe it or not, good receptionists and polite and helpful receptionists, they exist too. I literally didn't realize this until I was like, I don't know, 23. I just thought that all GP surgeries, like I thought every experience was like the one that I was having. So yeah, if any of these sound familiar, please change your GP. All right, tip number 3. My voice is starting to go. I'm getting very passionate about this, but I just think that doctor's appointments still now, even though I have my diagnosis, like make me nervous. Next point, bring notes with you and make notes prior to going to your appointment. Often these things are like 15 minutes long, which is not enough time to fit in everything that you need to say. So you have to go in with like a plan, structure, a couple of bullet points, and a strategy. So yeah, I want to tell you that my cycle length keeps changing. Sometimes it's 24 days, sometimes it's 32. Point number one, I want to tell you that I'm getting infections like more than I ever was before, and that doesn't kind of sit right with me. It's almost like my body is struggling with something bigger and is getting run down. Hint, hint, nudge, nudge. I get pain when I go to the loo. You know, like if you have these written down on a piece of paper, like a tangible piece of paper, you're not going to accidentally forget one of the things that you need to mention. You can just utilize that 15-minute doctor appointment to the best of your ability. I also will say, yeah, do it on a piece of paper or bring in a notebook. Don't just do it on your phone, because when you have it on your phone, sometimes it can feel a bit unofficial. I know that sounds really strange, but there's something about sitting down at a desk with the doctor opposite you, like you're some kind of like news reader, putting down your notebook, looking so organized and businesslike and saying, these are my symptoms. There's like an air of control there, isn't there? Whereas like, hang on, let me just find it, it's on my notes page. Oh, I don't have signal, or oh, I can't unlock my phone and I'm flustered. That looks less, oh look, Tristan, did you see that? That has been the background on my phone for over a year and a half now. Isn't he cute? Anyway, I just got sidetracked. Tristan's my fiance, if you don't already know. You don't come to this video for info on him. But yeah, when you have a phone and it's just like hard to work your way through it sometimes, and you forget your passcode or it doesn't recognize your face because you've got a face mask on, etc, etc. Have your notes, put them down, shows that you mean business. And then I think my final point is going to be, use the resources that you have as well as you possibly can. So Endometriosis UK has a website. Go to that website, absorb all the information and the facts and the figures, get clued up on what you think you might have. If you're yet to have your endo diagnosis, really understand what endometriosis is. You don't want to allow a doctor to trip you up. Not that I think they necessarily will. I'm not like out to get us. Doctors are like problem solvers. They want to find solutions and fix things. That's why would they become a doctor. You will just sound more medically clued up and savvy if you know what you're talking about. And unfortunately, they're just going to be more likely to take you seriously. So yeah, please, I will put the link to that website in my description box down below. Fantastic place. Also got a lot of forums on that site as well, where you can meet like-minded people. And that goes on to my other point. Try and find the endometriosis community, say on Instagram, because they are amazing. So many fantastic people, just like wonderful, inspiring women that I love so much. I haven't even met most of them. I just know them through the app, but like online best friends. And from them, you can find out who they went to see, because there aren't that many endometriosis specialists. So once you've found the good GP and you've ticked that box and they're like, yeah, okay, I'm going to refer you to a gynecologist, you don't want to get referred to a gynecologist who doesn't really quite understand what endometriosis is, because unfortunately we're still in a position where like a lot of doctors, you say endo to them and you can kind of feel like it's going over the top of their head, and they haven't learned about it properly yet, which is wrong when you consider that 1 in 10 people born with female genitalia at birth have endometriosis. Like 1 in 10 women have endo. That's nuts. We should all be educated on this, but we're not yet. It will come in time, but it hasn't come yet. So what you don't want is finally getting that referral and being referred to the wrong person. So yeah, try and do a little bit of research on the specialists, the people that perform endometriosis like surgery, which is called a laparoscopy. That kind of surgery to a really high standard has good reviews. It's not a product that you're buying, but you know what I mean, right? You need to find somebody that just knows what they're doing. Feel free to message someone and ask, what's the worst that's gonna happen? They'll say, no, sorry, don't wanna give you that information, but it won't hurt you to try. And often you will find that there's a lot of names that keep cropping up. So I have not seen this doctor in particular, but I have 2 friends who did see him and swear by him, and he's called Mr. Man, and he's a surgeon. So Mr. M-A-N-N. Like I said, I've not seen him personally, so I can't vouch for him, but he's just a specialist off the top of my head that I know 2 girls have been to see and really rated him and liked him. So yeah, ask around. Play the field as such, I think. Strange turn of phrase, but here we are. I hope that you found that helpful. I just want to round up by saying I really, really, really know how you feel. I have been to so many doctor's appointments and almost begged people to take me seriously and been dismissed. So I get you, I hear you, and I just wish you the best of luck. Mwah! Oh yeah, I always round off by saying peace, love, and gentle hugs. And please subscribe to my channel if you want to hear more of the same. Mwah.